Box Office Dialogue starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is Box Office Dialogue with your host,
Emperor Xander.
Red Lantern 24.
and now your host, Emperor Xander.
Hello and good evening. Thank you. It's May 24th, 2013, and this is Box Office Dialogue. I'm your... Thank you again. Please, sit down. We have a show to do. And with me always is... Red Lantern 24.
You gonna announce me or just...
I just did. Are you deaf?
Hello folks, how are you today? Oh, it's good to hear. It's great to be back. It's been a long time since we've been together, man.
Has it really been that long?
Over a month at least.
Or maybe there is a secret lost episode out there. Perhaps.
Yeah.
That might have or might have not been deleted due to a storm. Out of my control.
Yeah, right. Sure.
Like that could ever happen.
Yeah, but that's possible at all.
Yeah, I don't think so. So yeah, tonight, let's just dive straight into it with our new segments. We have segments now. Segments are cool.
Yes, they are.
Yes. First
Segment
one will be DVD reviews with Firefly/Serenity.
Woo! Yes, I am looking forward to this show. I love this show, the DVD. You want to give a review of what the show and DVD was about, or you want me to?
You know the show better than I do.
All right, so Firefly is it's a future-based Western sci-fi, which sounds like it shouldn't work, but it does. It's simply about a crew of people on a ship called the Firefly class Serenity, as they are living in a totalitarian government-based universe, where the government is literally basically kind of the bad guys of the show. And you are following these people in their day-to-day lives as they are basically trying to be under the radar against the government and protect criminals, so to speak. Nathan Fillion stars as a character named Mal, the captain of the Firefly, and it is one of the better sci-fi shows ever come out. Produced, written, directed, created by Joss Whedon. Got one season because Fox is an idiot, and
You can say that a lot, because they've canceled a lot of good shows.
Oh yes, I know. As I said, Fox is an idiot. I'm not making things up here. Fox doesn't know what it's doing.
Well, at least one's coming back this Sunday.
What show is that?
Arrested Development, Season 4.
Oh. On Netflix, not on Fox.
Well, on Netflix. Yeah. I'm not saying it's back on Fox, I'm saying it's back. There's a difference.
Anyways, so yeah, Firefly got one season. That was the TV show title. It got such a huge following that Serenity was created, which is the title of the movie. Both are just well worth watching. The great thing is you don't have to have seen season 1 to watch the movie and enjoy it. However, having seen this season makes a lot of what the movie is about more sense. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I personally I think the DVDs are well worth buying and watching. The show itself is well worth watching. Overall, it's, 16 hours altogether between the show and the movie. I want to say it's about 12, 13 episodes, each an hour long, and then a 2-hour movie. They also have tons of great extras, including bloopers, which are just hilarious. I love bloopers. I don't know about you, but I do, and they're fun to watch. And so this group really does a well job. Wow, I just said wow. That was such bad grammar. I'm so sorry.
It's you, so...
Huh?
That's what's expected of you. Anyway, going on. Go on.
Not much more I can say on it. It's well worth watching. I don't. If you haven't seen it, see it, because it's going to be the best, one of the better sci-fi stuff. And if you want to break into science fiction, Serenity and Firefly are the best things to do it, because it doesn't at times feel like science fiction, even though it is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's my views. Any thoughts from you, Wade?
I like the series. I don't think it's the greatest thing ever, like everyone seems to say. It's good, but I like it. It's worth at least one watch. Mm-hmm. I don't think Josh Whedon is the super awesome best writer ever, like most people turn out to be.
That's because you don't know good writing.
Oh, yeah, it's my fault for not recognizing his greatness. Yeah, okay. I really love the studio audience we have now.
I know. Where did we find this group? They're awesome.
I just gathered a bunch of homeless people, and they just stand here and applaud and laugh.
They are a fun crowd.
Yeah. I'm hoping to have them back.
I know we have like a drummer here too. What is that about?
Yeah.
Like,
he just had a drum, so. There's also a tuba guy and some other people, but you'll probably hear them later. But yeah.
So like to build up the coming sections that we're doing, the segments that we have now.
Yeah, we have our own continuity now. There's actually a universe building around just this show. I can't wait to read the fan fictions for this show. Anyway, yes, everyone agrees. On with the Serenity. I really like Serenity. I actually like Serenity better than the TV show because I feel like we actually had some Well, I can't really blame the show for not having closure because it was thinking it was probably getting a second season.
Yeah, that was Fox. That was all Fox.
Yeah. But yeah, it had closure for my two favorite characters, the Doctor and the Mechanic, who are the best couple in the series, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're great. Of course, I'm a big Zoe Wash fan, so I was kind of sad of what happened with Wash.
Yeah.
However, really funny
That's
thing,
Whedon's
actually.
writing for you.
Huh?
That's Whedon's writing for you. He will always kill someone off.
Oh, yeah, I know. Really cool thing that Josh actually, in an interview, Joss Whedon actually said, he was asked about it, and he said that the movie Serenity was meant to be what Season 2 would have entailed, had they had the Season 2.
Well,
so
he better start on the third movie soon.
Huh?
He better start on the second movie / Season 3 now.
Yeah. I think it's the question of where he goes from there, and he has a lot working on. I mean, he's kind of Marvel's ownership, you know? He's overseen a lot of the Marvel movie universe now.
And maybe we'll talk about that later. Maybe not.
So, shall we move on? Do you have anything else you want to say?
No. I do not have anything to add to this, but yeah, Firefly's good. Serenity's good. Josh Whedon's not the best writer of all time, but he is a good writer. Can we agree on that?
He's a good writer. I feel he's a great writer. You feel he's good. He's a good writer.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I say he overdoes on his own tropes a little too much. He needs to be a little less predictable. But the next one is Tinseltown Reviews, and today we're going to be reviewing two movies that were recently in theater, that are still in theaters, but recently came to theaters, which would be Iron Man 3 and Star Trek Into Darkness.
Whoop!
Which one would you like to start with?
Let's start with Iron Man 3, since that's kind of the further away one. Would have been better if we'd had the proper recording. Stupid storm.
Hurricane Sandy.
I feel sad about that.
Yep.
Anyways, Iron Man 3. Yeah, so why don't you...
should we start with the positives or the negatives of this?
Well, give the premise of the movie.
Alright, the premise of the movie is it takes place after the awesome movie, which calls itself The Avengers, and makes many callbacks to it. Well, Tony Stark is kind of just chilling at his house. You know, just doing what Tony Stark does. Where there's some terrorists, like, doing terrorist stuff and terrorist review videos or whatnot. And somehow the terrorists interfere, like, he hurts one of his friends, so Tony takes it all personal. And he calls them out. They destroy his house, as you see in the preview. And he pretty much is unable to access any of his suits, so he only has one suit to work with about, let's say, 75% of the movie. And War Machine is changed to Iron Patriot.
Yeah, that was... So let's dive in. Let's do the positives. What was your positive?
Positives? Unlike the last two movies, we actually had a good climax, I feel. It wasn't like, oh, the bad guy went out because we blew him up in 3 seconds. And the fight wasn't that long.
Yeah,
this one was definitely... Alright, is he actually dead this time?
Yeah,
I think they did like 2 fake outs.
At least.
But yeah, it was an awesome battle with like 42 suits. Because Tony Stark is a big fan of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, apparently.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I mean, I definitely was pleased with the amount of the battle that they had compared to the past two. I also really liked, I really appreciated the way they didn't just ignore Avengers, but they touched on it throughout it. Like, you saw him...
It's actually a plot point, so...
Going through PTS, going through post-traumatic stress. Apologize to anybody who haven't seen the movie. Of course, if you haven't seen Iron Man 3 by now...
It's your fault because it's been like 3 weeks and whatnot.
There's issues there. Just for reference, there will be spoilers throughout the rest of this for both Iron Man 3 and Tony and Star Trek Into Darkness. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was well scripted once again. The director.
The director wasn't he the director for Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
I believe so.
So he has worked with Downey in the past, so.
Yep, but he's never, he didn't do the first 2 Iron Man movies. That was Jon Favreau
But he was in the movie too. So.
John is in the movie. Yeah, John's actually in the movie a bit more. His character is a bit more active in this one than the past 2, and that's what John wanted, and that's why he stepped out of the director role. But I thought I thought they did a great job making this movie, and I was really pleased with character development, and as I said, seeing Tony dealing with post-traumatic stress, because in truth, you go to war, you come back from something like that, you're not just going to come back as if nothing happened. You're going to be changed, and they show that in there. They show him dealing with what does it mean that I've just been in a huge battle and almost died.
Yeah.
So I was really appreciative of that. And so, anything else you found positive about this movie?
Character interactions like him and the kid. That was great stuff, and the dialogue between Stark and anyone is always great.
Well, I loved the priest, the eggshell scene, or the Easter egg scene with him and Ruffalo.
Oh yeah, Science Bros.
That was awesome. I'm like,
I'm hoping they make Science Bros the movie, so we can have Hulk or Banner and him make the Hulkbuster suit together and whatnot. That would be pretty awesome if they did that.
It would, but I'm not sure we're gonna get it. At least not for a while.
Yeah. Speaking of character interaction, probably another thing. The movie had the exact same reaction. The movie had the same reaction I did for Rhodey turning to Iron Patriot. It's like, alright, that's cool, but War Machine's better.
Yeah.
Like, the movie itself is like a bitchy fanboy when it's about, I want to be War Machine. But no, the government... Thank you. But no, the government's forcing me to be Iron Patriot.
Yeah, that was definitely a love call, and I think they threw that in there because of the fact that most fans were like, "What are you doing? He shouldn't be Iron Patriot. That's a villain." And
yeah. And he's
so I think they
evil
threw that in there to
CEO
make
that
me
hates him.
Say that again.
Pretty much the idea of Iron Patriot is it's kind of an anti-Tony more than he's a CEO as well, and he's evil. That's pretty much the idea.
Oh, that's true.
Let's see. Anything else that we like?
I know it sounds weird. I actually enjoyed seeing, even for the briefest of seconds, seeing Pepper in the suit. Because I feel like it's hinting at things to come, like the possibility of putting her in her suit fully. Just a glimpse of rescue was worth it, you know.
I'm hoping this has been what Iron Man 4's plot will be, like a kind of a brief glimpse on what is to come.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, there's Avengers 2 that still has to happen, and we can get more into that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because when we get to the news section,
yeah,
I mean, the big thing, you know, Robert Downey Jr.'s contract is done.
Shh, save that for later.
We'll get back to that. So negatives. Let's get into the negatives since we've kind of touched on it already.
All right. Let's start with the big boy, the one that everyone's gonna want to know about and is already talking about, the Mandarin.
Yes. And I felt it's so weird. I had this like mixed feelings. Like part of me was like, why did you do it that way? Part of me saw it fitting well with the universe they were creating.
I kind of had that feeling, but I was leaning way more towards the dislike.
Yeah, and I get that. I guess my thoughts were like...
I know you and I disagree on the Mandarin being able to fit in this universe.
Huh?
Last time we talked off-show, I remember you and I disagreeing on the Mandarin's being able to fit into the cinematic universe.
Yeah, and so when we had talked, I just brought up the fact that most people are familiar with the Mandarin as he is in the traditional continuity storyline in the comic books and cartoon, and that Mandarin is very much of kind of a magical kind of being, and this, especially the Iron Man universe, has not touched on that at all. Everything is technology based and plausible, even if not there.
See,
and I know there's other versions of him, but most people are familiar with that, and that's what they'd be drawing from with these characters. And he just character, that Mandarin character, the magical, mystical character, just doesn't fit with the universe that they created, and that's part of probably the reason why they wanted to change it.
I think he could have fit in if they mixed a little bit of both. Do like they did with Thor and have it be it, and it is alien technology. It is explained later, the newer books, that it's actually alien dragon technology. Alien dragon technology, people. Why is that not in a movie? That should have been the first thing that brought up after bringing the Mandarin. Are we going to bring an alien dragon technology into this? And the answer should have been yes.
Well, the problem was that the people who sought out the Mandarin, which was the terrorist group that we were introduced to in the first movie, you know, it didn't draw on the Mandarin at all with them, and so there was no searching for him and stuff. The other thing was he was meant to be he was around for, you know, during the actual time that a Mandarin would have been around, and was brought back to life by these rings. And it's just, again, it wouldn't have fit well with the way the world that they created. Not saying the character wasn't good. I feel like if they tried to done it, they would have either made it super goofy, or they would have changed it in a way even that people would have even gotten more mad about. By doing this, you were able to kind of bring in another character and Killian, but yet have the Mandarin up there as a face of
I
stuff.
really did not like that, where he's like, I'm the Mandarin, Tony, obviously. That probably pissed me off more than that anything. I was actually expecting for him to be actually like Ben Kingsley is like, no, I'm not the Mandarin, and just like, and then stabbing him in the back after the fight with the other guy. But
yeah, I was expecting to be a bit more.
I was like,
kind of confused on that. I'm like, why aren't you?
Yeah, I was expecting him to, since they brought him along pretty much with him, they brought him along through the whole journey afterwards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so after that false last battle will happen, he'll reveal that he's actually been the Mandarin the whole time, and he was just putting a false face and waiting for him to be weakened. That would have been as many people have said, the ending was good, but it would have been better if they actually stuck with the Mandarin. Another thing they could have done, I just thought about a couple days ago. They could have had him in like an alien technology suit thing, like Chinese ancient armor, that kind of like a mix between Chinese ancient armor and Tony's sort of thing, but alien technology. Then he traveled through time. They could have done that, where he was actually a warlord from the past who found this technology. But that's just an idea I had. They could have done.
There's a variety of ways they could have. There's a variety of ways.
With that, it wouldn't have been too ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of ways they could have done it. Part of it is I think they wanted to disconnect this in some ways, besides the post-traumatic stress stuff that Tony was going through, from the rest of the Marvel Universe to end this series. Meaning that this is meant to be a trilogy kind of thing. Like, Iron Man 3 is kind of the end of the Iron Man kind of franchise as we know it. It's not saying that Iron Man is completely done or Tony Stark is never going to be seen again, despite the ending and stuff in it. I mean, they came out and said that after the credits and stuff, Tony Stark will be back. However, I think what they were trying to do was to finish a storyline that they had started with the first Iron Man and see that kind of come to a full term so they can then start a new storyline. And it also works well because it ends it then with Robert Downey Jr.'s run as Iron Man, saying that he can step away from the character if he wanted to at this point and not feel like there's an ending storyline that they have to finish with him. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Speaking of the ending, the second problem I have with this movie, him blowing up all his suits. That really makes, no matter how many times I think about it, it makes no sense. It's exploding millions of dollars in technology that you could have just give to someone else. Even if you don't want to be Iron Man anymore, Tony, you could have given it to, go and search for someone to replace you if you don't want Rhodey. I understand why you don't want to give it to Rhodey, because then it would be in the hands of the government. Just find someone else to be Iron Man and then give it to him.
Rhodey still has his suit. I mean,
yeah, Rhodey has his suit, but if you want to give all those other suits to, someone else, hell, Happy could have been the next Iron Man. And he's had it in the comics, so I'm not saying that's what should happen. I just thought it was real stupid for him to be like, well, I spent hours upon hours building all these suits, blow up time. I have no emotional connection to these suits anymore.
Well, I mean, they fix his heart, they get rid of the battery, they get rid of the chest piece and give him a regular heart again, and he throws his chest piece away. Which I was like, okay, what?
But
I don't know.
The only positive I can see from him blowing up all his suits, I'm assuming he didn't go over there and pick up every single piece in that shipyard where AIM was obviously located.
Yeah, I was going to say, AIM just got hands on a lot of... I mean, unless those things, incinerated fully.
And that's hard to believe that they incinerated entirely. I'm assuming a lot of that technology could easily be rebuilt.
was gonna say, you just gave AIM a lot of things, and I hope that they bring them back, not just in...
Even if it's not AIM, someone else is gonna... Let's just say... Suggest... Even if AIM is, like, been disbanded, and they're kind of like, oh, we have to kind of rebuild and can't concentrate on using those suit pieces, because we're pretty much defunded at the moment. Someone else could just go around and pick... Like, I think I've suggested this before. Hammer Industries. They could be like, after Justin Hammer's paid back all his things for the last movie, he could come back and be like, oh, look! What I've always wanted. Stark Technology.
I would think, actually, being that AIM and Hydra work so close together in comics, I've noticed, and stuff, have Hydra show up.
Yeah, I think technically this... AIM is an off-branch of Hydra, if I'm not mistaken.
Which means Hydra could easily come in and take it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember who was fighting during the Armor Wars, which is the best setup we got.
Isn't that most recent?
No, that was in the 80s.
Oh, that might have been Hydra, I think.
But it has introduced... I do remember it introduced a Titanium Man, and Firepower, which I'm hoping those two would be awesome for next movie, because they're kind of an Iron Man and War Machine themselves.
Yeah, I have a feeling, though, I'm going to be honest, I don't think the next Iron Man movie itself will be until probably 2000.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a while.
17 or more.
But yeah, I like it. It just like Batman, Dark Knight Rises, it had the potential of being my favorite of the trilogy, but it screwed it up. It had what it needed to be the best, but it ruined it.
I could see that.
But it's still a good movie.
I can see that.
Star Trek Into Darkness. You can start this one up.
Apparently people are excited about this one. So Star Trek Into Darkness is the follow-up to the movie Star Trek that J.J. Abrams did back in 2009, I believe.
Was it 9 or 8? I think it was
there.
9. Hello?
But sorry, I'm just
Continue.
Weird there for a second. Yeah, so it's the follow-up to that. The Enterprise has been kind of on a test run with Kirk as captain and Spock as his first mate, and doing exploration, and it opens with a very cool scene, very interesting scene, still showing the differences between Spock and his logical, we must follow the rules all the time, and Kirk and his humanic, we're humans, sometimes we need to break the rules to care for people, lifestyle, and dives in quickly as a villain of unknown portions, begins by bombing what is the organization, one of the Starfleet's headquarters in England, in London, in fact, and then attacks them at their the main headquarters in San Francisco, and Kirk, who had been taken off of Enterprise, is put back on with Spock as his lieutenant, second in command, and they head off to the Klingon world to find this renegade, unknown to the Klingons that the renegade's there, and long, drawn-out story of trying not to start a war with the Klingons, which could happen with them being on the planet and stuff. It was a well-made movie overall. Again, following up on that sequel, it continued to advance the characters, and I think what I love is the fact that anybody who knew the original movies, an original TV show, which is what these characters are kind of based off of, should appreciate the fact that they're not changing continuity with those. This meant, the first one had a whole time travel thing in it that introduced a whole new timeline, and so anything can happen in this new timeline.
It does change continuity a little bit.
Huh?
It does change continuity a little bit.
Well, no, it's meant to be an alternate timeline, so these things can still happen, and the other ones still happen as well, because this isn't the same.
Well, we're about to enter spoiler territory, so I can explain what changed. So like Khan showing up like this early is a huge change in continuity.
Well, if you actually see the original movie, no, because in the movie, Khan had been known.
Yes, because he was in the TV show already.
Yeah.
And that's when the first time they met him.
Exactly, and so this was just saying that they met him a little bit earlier, and kind of one of the first few times that they met him. And they gave a different kind of... The character was similar and yet different. Like, I've seen the movie, and the character that they had introduced in the original stuff. I have seen The Wrath of Khan, and John Harkness, who turned out to be Khan, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. I believe I said that name right.
I don't know or care.
Great British actor, plays Sherlock. Guy's amazing. He did a great job, but the character was was meant to be different. Like, yes, it's Khan, and there's certain things that are similar, but a lot of it was much different from who Khan was in the first one. And the story of the so-called Wrath of Khan was, wasn't what we were following here. Yeah, there was the attack on the Federation and all this stuff. But in the first one, at least in the movie, the Wrath of Khan, like, in some ways, a lot of his attack on Federation, it was a lot of more peaceful attacks at times than anything, whereas this was all out forceful. I'm trying to draw something that I know of. And he just did a great job portraying this character in a unique light. I was highly impressed. I was curious about what they were going to do. I'll admit, like, I wasn't sure if they were actually bringing in Khan, because JJ and the crew were trying to intentionally not let that known. They didn't want to. I mean, they gave a name and stuff, and his origin and character. His origin was very similar. Again, he's a genetically enhanced character, and yet they changed how he kind of came along and who he is and certain things about him that I felt like it was a homage. It was taking that old character and giving it fresh light. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it really didn't feel like the Wrath of Khan movie. Like, it didn't feel like this is the Wrath of Khan.
Until that one part.
Oh, the Khan!
Yeah, and before that.
Yeah, that role reversal scene was very much appreciated. And so in the first Wrath of Khan, who was it? Spock sacrifices his life to save the crew. And in doing so, dies. And that's how the Wrath of Khan ends. With Spock dead and apparently gone. Despite the best efforts of McCoy, Bones and stuff. Whereas this one, we saw, again, okay, spoilers, again, I apologize. But we saw a role reversal on that. So Kirk actually heads down, fixes the ship, and through a radiation dies. But there's a point, one of my favorite things is as they're sitting there talking through this door that they can't go through, Kirk makes this, like, Spot asks him, like, why do you do this? And Kirk goes, it's what you would have done. Why are you, and why are you here? And Spock responds, well, it's what you would have done. And so it's just like the idea, like, they're finally understanding each other more as they're becoming better friends.
Yeah.
And in that, like, they're seeing, this is what this person would have done. It's the right thing to do. I'm doing this. It was just a really encouraging thing. Of course, we do not see Kirk stay dead for very long, because Dr. McCoy has some of these...
We didn't get the sequel, The Search for...
Yeah, we don't get the
Search for Kirk.
We're not getting a Search for Kirk in the next movie.
Damn it! I wanted to see who they were gonna put, who they were gonna replace that villain with.
Yeah. But so what it has is Khan's genetically enhanced blood. Bones, Dr. McCoy, has it and found out that it can regenerate life and is able to save Kirk's life with basically this super enhanced blood. But it doesn't seem like he has any of Khan's gifts, like this super strength or anything. It's just, it brought him back to life. And that was, it was one of these things that I
It was only a little bit of blood, not like a gallon of blood.
No, it was a little. It wasn't huge, But the thing is that was one of the things, I'll say this, like, kind of in a negative, in kind of like I saw that coming. Like, as soon as he's dying,
it was pretty obvious.
I was sad that he was dying, but as soon as he started dying, I'm watching that scene going, Bones has Khan's blood that can regenerate life. Why aren't we just giving Kurt the regenerative life blood? Oh, we are! I called that! Look at that! Hey! I'm smart. Thank you. I don't know why the trumpets just went off. That was weird.
That was odd.
That was odd.
We need to talk to him about that.
I'll take care. I'll talk to the band afterwards. So yeah, there were small things that I'm just like, kind of foresaw that, but like Allura really got a lot saw differences, and so in the earlier movies and stuff, when they interacted with the Klingons, Allura really didn't really know Klingon that well and couldn't really translate well. In this one, she has a lot more. Like, she actually talks with them and tries to calm them. The Klingons had their ridges, but it was different. Like, I remember someone pointing out, like, they actually had some jewel. Like, the one Klingon that we saw take off his mask had the ridges in there, but he had like jewels, almost like jewelry, like chain or whatnot, kind of throughout him, and it's almost looked like he did the ridges to himself rather than they were just kind of partly there. Now, I don't know if that's what it is, or maybe he just put the jewelry.
Well, it's complicated due to this is the first time we're seeing them in this universe, so we don't know if this is pre the transformation they went through for a while or post.
Yeah, and that's true. Like, we don't know all that's going on here. They have the ridges, which is, to me, that's what when I hear Klingon, that's what I imagine, is the ridges on the head. I feel like that's what they are. So there's a lot that can be changed, and there's a clear setup in all this for it, because, at the end of the movie, like, Kirk gets to say his line, we are the Starship Enterprise on a 5-year mission to explore where no man has gone before. It ends kind of setting up like we're finally getting underway of the mission that has been promised for us. And so it sets up where it's like the third movie could really bring in anything. It could bring in something from the TV show characters and change it. They could bring something from one of the movies. There's so much now that can be brought in and done with the third movie. They could even, if they wanted to, and I'd love to see this happen, is bring in something that was introduced in the next generation and just attach it to this, because it's like it should have been around. And now that we're in a new timeline and sort of dimension, this new timeline, we could see things that maybe Kirk and them hadn't run into, but are now running into because things have changed. Does that make sense?
Like what would you say they should run into? Like the Borg?
Possibly. That'd be a Nemesis, like the character, the villains from like the Nemesis, some of the movies, some Nemesis or Resurrection.
One thing I would, if they were gonna do that, I want to see how Kirk would react to Q.
Yeah,
how he would deal with Q.
It often have to be kind of figuring out how they would do that, because obviously Next Generation is meant to be like 5 or 6 or 7 generations distant from this.
I thought it was the Next Generation. I guess my bad.
Well, no, funny, it's called the Next Generation because it's the generation that we can watch, but it's like the 5th or 6th Enterprise. I want to say...
I thought it was the 6th or something Enterprise because Kirk destroyed the first 5.
No. Kirk, the first Enterprise was the Enterprise that his father flew, at least in this one. Which it did talk about that a little bit. But then again, his father was alive in the storyline of the TV show. The first Enterprise went through and survived fine. The second Enterprise run, Kirk only officially flew 2. The third one, when it was Chris and Kirk showed up for during Generations. But the fourth or fifth one, which is what Captain Picard had, he even said it's been quite a few distances since the first one, since Kirk ran. Like, Picard had never even met. Like, Kirk was a distant past, like something that happened long ago and didn't have effect on who he was now. And a lot of changes, like, you don't have Generations, from what I understand, like, introduced characters to kind of copy characters that were in the first one, but yet not at the same time. So, like, you didn't have Vulcans on the ship. You had a robot character. Is that right? I don't know.
Data, yeah, he's a robot.
Data, that's it. Data, and you have the tech. You have the guy who's running the African American guy. Is that Q?
No, Q is John Delancey and the Reading Rainbow guy.
That's right.
And that's all he'll be known for, Reading Rainbow guy.
Didn't he have a visor?
Yes, he had a visor.
In the show, wasn't? I thought he was kind of the Scotty kind of character. Wasn't he the tech guy?
He was a tech guy, but
yeah,
he wasn't really Scotty-ish.
No, I'm not saying he was Scotty-ish, but he was the kind of character that Scotty was. Like, he was the one who kind of.
I think he was more
the head engineer kind of character.
Yeah, he was kind of a mix of him and Sulu.
Yeah. Except he never really got on the bridge much.
Yeah.
So, one cool thing about, anyways, Into Darkness, something I really appreciated was they kind of played at the Sulu captain point. And so there's a point where Jim has to leave the ship, and he's like, Sulu, you have command. Like, take the captain's seat while I'm gone. And so Sulu kind of looks back at the seat at one point, and he goes, I've never... And Jim looks at him, and he goes, what's wrong? And he goes, I've never sat there. Like, I've never even considered it. And when he comes back, and he's sitting... Huh?
Oh, my.
Yeah. And so when Jim comes back, he gets up, he goes... Jim's like, what do you think? He goes, I like that. Like, so it kind of just plays it like, oh yeah, Scott, which in the movies, eventually Sulu becomes the captain of his own starship in the original show, the original movies. Mm-hmm. And so it just kind of touches on that a little bit of, this is a possibility in the future for him. And that was kind of a nice homage.
I have 3 things I liked about this movie. The first thing is they demoted Kirk, at least for a little bit, well, to make it seem a little bit realistic. You're like, you just broke a whole bunch of rules. You're not captain anymore. And then the captain's like, nope, I'm going to let him be my first in command instead of a new red shirt.
Yeah.
And then he dies, so he becomes captain again. It was
better as first in command of the ship that he was originally captain of.
Yep.
I'm like, that's an insult to injury right there. You're not captain of the ship anymore, but you're going to still be on it. What? Anyways, go on. Sorry, go on.
Alright, the second thing I liked is when they brought Leonard Nimoy back for this.
His cameo in this was awesome. And again, it wasn't him when he was a little bit smaller than the first one. But it was still great just him kind of being called. I'm like, why is he calling New Vulcan? And then
he's like, I know I never was going to tell you about the future, but I'm going to...
I'm not supposed... I promised I wouldn't do that because I don't want to change your destiny. But... if Khan is around, he's a horrible person and...
I really think it would have been funnier if he just grocery lists, like, a bunch of things that aren't gonna... Like... So yeah, you better go into research about humpback whale cloning. And I just think you should have just done a huge grocery list of things. Like, yeah, you need to do this, this, and this.
Yeah, it was, I mean, the nice thing was he just said, like, they're in that scene, like, the new Spock, our Spock, so to speak, asked him, like, were you able to defeat Khan? He goes, at great cost. And he just leaves it at that. And anybody who knows the old movies will go, Yeah, that's true. You did die, and people who don't know the movies go, "What do you mean, great cause? What? That's it ominous. Can we be more ominous right now? After you're trying not to tell the future, you're telling us the future, and then you're just gonna leave it ominous like that? Like, great cause. What does that mean? You know,
and
yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And the third thing, that battle ship, how enormous, how enormous it was, and it being black and actually intimidating.
So for those of you again who haven't seen it, I apologize. Go see the movie.
We've already said spoilers in this.
I know. I'll say it anytime I come to this. The admiral has secretly been building ever since the Romulan incident of the first movie, has secretly been building technology with the help of Khan, which is again a new thing compared to like the older stuff. Has been building technology to basically fight against any villains, including the Klingons that they've heard of. And they created this thing called the Dreadnought, which is, I believe it's 4 times bigger and 5 times faster than a typical Starfleet ship.
Has 2 freaking huge cannons on it, and it's
really
black.
Cool.
And it's black. You know how sexy that is, and how
that
blends
really
in with
like
the black, the void of.
It's really more of like a dark rustic color, like brown, like a dark. It's not that black actually when you see it, especially when you see it. So one of the cool
it looks
things
black to me, but okay.
One of the things you can see when it's flying through, one of the kind of interesting things when it in lightspeed is traditional lightspeed on all Starfleet ships, on all ships. In lightspeed is you can't go any faster than what everybody's going, so you can't take up on people. The Dreadnought was created for this purpose, and so it actually...
To say, screw the rules.
And basically it's like we're in the middle of lightspeed, and you see this thing, like, they're going, and you're like, no, they can't catch us once we're in lightspeed, and all of a sudden Sue goes, Captain, there's something on the monitor approaching us, and then 2 gunshots, like, suddenly blasters just hit them, and you're like, how did the Dreadnought just speed up and pass us? Like, how did it just catch us?
That's actually the scariest thing. You're going faster than light speed, and then you're shooting something.
And something's being shot at you, yeah, and they get hit, and they actually...
Think about the physics on that. That ship should be destroyed if you get hit in faster than light speed.
Yeah, it hits, and it actually bounces them out of light speed, and you see that it just gets badly damaged from that. And so they actually, like, it gets hit, a hull breach, people are being pulled out, ships gets pulled, like, just because of the damage, pulled out of light speed, and so it just makes this realistic, like, the damage and what this Dreadnought is doing pulls them out far from where they need to be with Earth, and then it's just, at that point, they're trying to recuperate and get themselves, like, safe as this Dreadnought is basically chasing them down, and Scotty turns out to be, like, stuck on the Dreadnought, which is hilarious. He had climbed on board when he discovered about it. So Scotty left the ship when they were bringing these missiles onto Enterprise, and he's like, I'm not signing for these. No, that's not happening. And they're like, fine, go away. And so Scotty then was asked by Jim to go and investigate this location where he found the Dreadnought, and Scotty gets on and, like, turns all the power off, which is hilarious. You're like, dude, rock on, man, well done. And so there's a lot of comical points, really funny, really enjoyable. If you've seen the first one and you enjoyed Star Trek, the reboot series, you'll enjoy this one. It's definitely something I want people to know. Like, you'll enjoy the new one.
Yeah.
So.
And that sexy black color for that, it reminds me of the black helicopters and it's blends in so well with the void of space. Anyway,
so yeah,
that's the end. We should start our next segment, movie news.
Movie news. Yes, so we are moving on to our final segment, which is movie news. And so our first topic, we kind of touched on a little bit, but I didn't want to get. We both didn't want to get much into it until we were able to get onto this. is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is what we've been seeing. All of this stuff, all the movies that we've seen up through Iron Man 3 is part of this Marvel, what's called the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU for short. Phase 1 was all the movies that came up before Avengers, and Phase 2 started with Iron Man 3 and goes through to this Avengers sequel. Avengers 2 is technically what it's called. And then Phase 3 will start up after that. And so they have 4 more movies in Phase 2. 3 more movies and a TV show in Phase 2. And then 2 movies for Phase 3. And I'm not counting the Avengers movie because that's kind of that transitional movie. But that's considered part of Phase 2. That's kind of the end of Phase 2. And so, movies coming up, October 30th is Thor, The Dark World. So Thor 2. April 4th of 2014, the next Captain America, The Winter Soldier. August 1st of 2014, Guardians of the Galaxy, which, that seems interesting. They're choosing to bring them in at this point. And then May 1st, and we'll come back to this because there's a few of our future news when we go on to it more. We're going to be sticking in the MCU for a lot of it. It's going to kind of surround the Avengers sequel, which is on May 1st, 2015. Man, that's 2 years away. But then also, to be announced, looking at fall, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. looks really good, and Agent Coulson will be back, and we'll find out what happened between Avengers and now, and how he survived, and what's going on, and how Nick Fury totally lied to the Avengers about his death. That's my theory, though.
It's true. No, it's definitely something that's going to be very interesting to see how they came about, I do love it.
And seeing that it's actually written by Whedon, it's going to be... It has to at least make a little bit of sense, because Whedon wouldn't write something that wouldn't fit in with his own work.
Oh yeah, it's going to be very especially that first episode that's going to explain how it is, which will be... The pilot episode will be Joss. Yeah, so the pilot episode will definitely be a good, interest, and I'm interested to see that. So, let's dive into the next kind of other thing in this, and then we can we're getting close to our end time, aren't we?
Yeah, we're getting very close. We're probably going to run a little bit over.
That's okay.
Yeah, let's...
But we'll skip over... the franchise thing's not a big deal. You can look it up, folks. A bunch of the movie franchises are returning.
Just quickly name them off, and we'll go to the next thing.
Yeah, the ones that are returning, the ones that have returned, Punisher, Daredevil, Ghost Rider, and Blade have all come back to the Marvel movies. And so there's a possibility that we might actually see these movies, in future MCU installments.
That will probably be Phase 4 or 5.
Yeah, so there's a possibility, and that'd be great. It's a possibility. They're going to be intentional about how they're doing that. So now one of the final things we want to do before we're kind of maybe seeing much stuff promotion if we have time is Joss Whedon has officially come out confirmed about 2 characters that he is promising are going to be in the Avengers 2 movie. The reason why this is a big deal is because of who these characters are. The big thing is these 2 characters belong to the X-Men universe. And that's a really big deal, being the fact that these are characters that technically, if X-Men wanted to put them in their movies, haven't done so. And so for the MCU to be claiming them in the Avengers movie, it's just one step closer to getting back all of X-Men, which is just a joyous thing. So it's the link. I will post this link underneath the YouTube video once we're all edited and put up. I also put this on Box Office Dialog. It's through StarburstMagazine.com on the news and stuff. But there's a lot of other places you can find it. I just like Starburst when I'm looking for this kind of stuff. It's a lot of interesting news. And it's a confirmed site, and that's what I love all about it. Are you in there yet?
Yeah, this makes sense.
Is that not cool?
Yeah.
And so, okay, folks, this is what it is. This is the cool thing about this. I'm going to just read the first paragraph. Joss Whedon recently confirmed that both the Scarlet Witch and her brother Quicksilver will be appearing in the Avengers 2. And then an interesting point to come out of that confirmation is that Marvel Studios apparently is seeing, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Saoirse Ronan, she's an actress, female actress, and she does look like her. I feel like she could, at least looks, could be the Scarlet Witch, as a blueprint for their version of the Scarlet Witch. To which point the actress actually said, "I've heard about this, and yes, I would do it. If they offered, she'd do it." So that's cool. I think it's awesome that they're putting them into the movie. You know, I think it's great just seeing that. What do you think?
I could see that why they chose these two mutants, because they have been in many incarnations of the Avengers. So I think they would have more rights to them than X-Men would.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but it's just the fact that
yeah, I think it's cool that we kind of got these two.
Yeah, it's at a point where like X-Men.
I'm kind of disappointed they probably cannot mention their father whatsoever, or their upbringing.
Yeah, and I'm sure either that they might change the characters a little bit, but I have a feeling they'll probably.
Oh, who's your father? We don't like to discuss that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I have a feeling they'll subtly make hints about Magneto without stating Magneto's name, being the fact that as right now, Fox, I believe it is, yeah. Fox owns the X-Men universe, and so therefore, but this is just one little step to like getting that control. And the great thing is, once Fox finally gives it up, and it'll happen eventually, but once Fox gives up the X-Men world, it'll be so great to just see these merge, and this would be a great stepping stone to merge them in.
Too bad Fox didn't give up immediately, because I know the first thing Marvel would totally arrowhead a Deadpool movie in.
If it fits with the universe. I mean, you remember a lot of everything they're.
I wouldn't think it would even. I don't see how Marvel deals with Deadpool. I don't think they would care if he really interacts with the rest of the universe. They would just make it to make it.
Yeah, again, I think
they play with Deadpool really differently than their other characters.
However, I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying in the comics. Yes. However, the MCU has really been intentional about having continuity and having connection with the universes. And so having crossover, characters constantly crossing over, even in the slightest, smallest thing. Having events that happen in the private in other movies affecting movies that are going on. So like the Avengers movie having an effect in Tony Stark's world, and being clearly going to have some effect in Thor coming up, and Captain America is going to have a big follow-up to it. And characters that are continually kind of
Captain America's movie is definitely affecting something I didn't say in the Iron Man segment. S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't in the movies.
Which again was intentional.
Yeah, which wasn't intentional, and I'm pretty much predicting that it will be explained why not in Winter Soldier. And that's all I have to say about that. Anything else you want to say about this, or no?
No, folks, this is a very exciting thing. Keep watching what Marvel is doing. Even though I'm a DC fan, DC is my love, especially with the comics. Marvel has very much impressed me with the movie making. I've been very pleased with the fact that Disney has just kind of handed the MCU money and said, make movies. And that's what they've been doing. Like, Disney hasn't really gotten its little tentacles in and influenced stuff. They've just kind of said, here's billions of dollars, make movies, make good movies.
It's Disney, not Disney Channel. Disney Channel is the evil part of Disney.
Yeah, well, they're all connected to me. But so, I've been very impressed and very pleased with it. And so, I'm impressed, like I am. Especially in movies, the MCU has been doing a great job. And so, the Dark Knight trilogy was awesome. Superman, Man of Steel coming up, I'm looking forward to. I think it's going to be great as well. Christopher Nolan's involved. But DC has some catch-up to do, and not in a bad way. It's just Marvel's had an opportunity a little bit ahead of time with all Marvel movies of getting a foothold in the movie world, whereas DC's had more TV show stuff.
Yeah.
And that's because of Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Is a heavy TV show over movie company. And so they have a little stepping stone to things to learn and go forward through, and they're learning those things. And they have good people kind of getting in place. But the MCU knows what it's doing.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts, guys. Keep up watching movies. This is such a great time. If you are interested and maybe you want to get on the show with us as you're listening, email us at boxofficedialogue@gmail.com. Get on our Facebook page. All these will be linked in the video once it gets up. And until next time, stay nerdy.
And you keep going to the theaters, and we'll keep having the dialogue. Good night.